welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch Esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss. Look who's starting it all off, it's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through, but he's just gonna solidify everything within those.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Lores is gonna be able to find these shots true.
Inu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes an Ambulance immediately back to fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2, 3, so back and forth.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on this nice Thursday evening where we have some CGL playoff action about to be coming your way. Some teams have already competed in their matches, but most teams still need to go to that first round, try to get themselves some momentum and a chance to play the upper bracket. But unfortunately, Ray, someone inevitably is going to have to drop into that lower bracket today. And it's either going to be Silvoc Lovers, the 3rd seeded team, or it's going to be Fellowship Esports, the 8th seeded team. And at this point, I mean, Ray, I like to say it all the time, when we get into the playoffs, we enter a situation where everything is 0-0. Everything that has happened in the past, all it is a sense of momentum and a sense of confidence. What you do with that is entirely up to you once you get into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting action coming out from both teams, which is a really interesting thing because we do a picking show. The 3rd seed ended up with the lowest seed, the number 8 seed. So we've seen Fellowship Esports on the on stream before, so we know what they bring to the table. But because of, you know, the top seeding wanting to take out their biggest threat really quickly, and then the 2nd place team targeting your team because they hadn't played you before, Silvoc got the, you know, let's just say it how it is, you know, the last place team, the one who ended up not doing as good. So to them, they must be feeling great about who they ended up with.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you see the 8th seeded team, you don't really expect it to get it to you if you're the 3rd team that's picking. But honestly, through quite a few of the pick'ems that we had, the 8th seeded team got selected first, only like I believe twice, maybe 3 times throughout 8 of our divisions, which is a little insane to me, quite honestly. But either way, it already creates a prospect where we know who the winner and loser are going to be facing depending on how this goes down. Obviously, the loser will drop down to face Choose Production Crew in the first round, and then the semis could be a match between the winner of this in low ground main. And obviously, there's been a lot of competition throughout the Masters division in NA this year. I really think there are 2 or 3 teams that are far and above competing out of their minds this season. And obviously, hope to see they eventually clash when we get into the winners final. But of course, Ray, that's a little bit of a while. We got to focus in on this match right here and what is, in my opinion, likely an underdog story for Fellowship Esports. But this has been a team that has been improving throughout the season, so excited to see what they bring to the table here today.
As we are going to be bringing you guys the ban phase for this first matchup. As you can see, Silvoc Lovers will be getting the first ban, and it's just going to be a big question because I'm going to be honest, I do not know the map yet, so it's hard to jive back and forth. Lijiang Tower. Okay, so Lijiang Tower, we're getting word that's going to be the first map. So again, you know, you expect, you know, Brawl to be good there, so maybe they take a Brawl tank out of it. You know, maybe you get rid of a support like Lucio, so maybe you can't play the Brawl as well. But again, man, I've seen so many teams banning Mauga. It's just shocking to me because I don't think he's that strong.
Yeah, if this were my prediction with what Silvoc is typically, because what I've seen from Silvoc is they are usually very smart with their picks. Realistically, Mauga is a tank that at least in the meta we currently live in, especially being in Masters, it's not usually the tank you're going to pull out. My guess is you're trying to potentially protect something like the Ramatra going into the situation.
That's
maybe just want to
fair
get
point.
Malk out of the way. That would be my understanding. So now that with that protection, Juno is going to be taken out in the situation. So now, without the Juno Brig kind of obsolete. And now I think teams might shift towards that, maybe the Kiriko Lucio, maybe towards the on a Brig style if you decide to run something a little more pokey or divey. It's kind of a toss-up because Juno is, despite what people may seen from the nerfs that have come through, still an extremely reliable support.
Yeah, so I assume if you're on Gardens and you're playing dive with like a Diva or a Winston, you'll just stick with Brig Ana, like, you know, what is par for the course when it comes to those comps. But on the other maps where Brawl tends to be a little bit better with the Ramatra, because, you know, Juno Lucio is one of those comps that teams like to run as well. So you don't have that. So I think because the Juno's now gone, if you're running a Brawl, it's going to be a Kiri Lucio comp, and there's not going to be much deviation from that. When it comes to beating, brawling, front line, like let me get in your face and just punch you and shoot you.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, a team that's really good at punching and shooting. Silvoc Lovers, again, taking that third seed, really only having big amounts of competition going up against teams like SOS and Low Ground Main, of course, Fifi and Varied on DPS, Professor Catboy on tank, and then Killed the Goat and Pizza Bagel on support. And once again, from being able to face this team personally, from being able to watch their journey and how they have evolved throughout the season, this is a team that I believe has stayed very consistent. But I think their biggest hurdle is, again, those top two teams that unfortunately they haven't managed to punch up into quite yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. My memory fades me a little bit, but this team has been around for a while. I can't remember if they've always been called Silvoc Lovers specifically, but you know, Fifi, Varied, Catboy, Pizza Bagel, these are all players that have been playing together for a while. So that cohesion is going to be there. So that's always something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and bring up their opponents for tonight, which is going to be Fellowship Esports with I'm just gonna say 6997, and then we got Gomeni, Lelucio, Rambo, and Tempt Me Not.
Yeah,
I actually like that. I love that. Love that name, Tempt Me Not.
Yeah, this is a team that has, again, I think a team that has truly grown throughout the season, truly has gotten better as time has moved forward. This is a team that originally, kind of watching them, just unfortunately not performing to what you would expect. But we were talking earlier, that 5th seed, EIG Reapers, Fellowship Esports beat that team just a couple of weeks ago in Map 5 fashion, got themselves a really good quality win, and that's momentum that's obviously should play into their favor and should give them a little bit of confidence going into this one, knowing that they have that punch-up power. And when it comes to that first map, Lijiang Tower, it's a map that we're all familiar with. There are no surprises. We know every inch, every corner, every health pack. So at the end of the day, it is down very simply to how you play this game. And when it comes to Night Market, I think... I don't think this is even a hot take. I think this is the one where it is extremely important to know what you're doing before you walk out of those doors.
Couldn't agree with you more. Just out of curiosity, is it a set map number 1, or was the higher seed able to pick?
The higher seed was able to pick.
Okay. Because I remember in mid-season we had set maps for each round, so I was curious if we did that for the main playoffs as well. But I like that. I like, you know, higher seed being able to do that. It rewards a successful regular season and, you know, allows you to bring into maps where you feel most comfortable on the control. So as we see both teams lining up in the Ramatra, kind of par for the course in what we were expecting on a map like this. We do have Fifi, who is going to play the Echo, which, you know, it's a good pick. It's just not what you're used to seeing all the time, but the amount of damage you can throw down with that focusing beam can help get targets down quickly, as Varied is going to go over to the Sombra. So Echo Sombra, not something we're used to seeing in this comp.
Yeah, really not. It is a bit unique in its own right, but however, you play your cards correctly, it can have incredible effect, and you just have to go for those hack timings correctly right now. And for the time being, Fellowship Esports kind of have to bide their time right now, but Rambo unfortunately has already gone down. Unfortunately, that Nemesis form going to spell the end of this fight. At this point, it's probably going to be a little bit of a stall game. Just try to take as much as you can away. Unfortunately, though, it is inevitably going to fall apart. His first fight taken care of with ease for Silvoc Lovers.
Yeah, you get Pizza Bagels. I guess the one thing you could say is Pizza Bagels not going to, you know, start running away with ult charge difference between Rambo. But you still lose the fight. You and now are allowing Silvoc's going to be able to push up to these front doors here. They can just watch for what approach you're trying to come from. So there's always the ability if you want to jump from the high ground, but it looks like they're just going to push down main.
Yeah, they're trying to throw everything at Professor Catboy for the time being. It's working in the sense of pushing them back, and in fact, to result in 6ix9ine just going in and taking care of business. With the tank on, things are going to get a little bit difficult. Unfortunately, you've hit the trade button, and unfortunately, that might have been the worst trade you could have possibly had as a separation taking place. Going to get the hack over onto Rambo. Will eventually get taken out with help from their counterpart as the point, hoping to flip over. Unfortunately, 3/4 of the way through is not enough to force it over. And unfortunately, with the hacks coming through, it's going to become more and more difficult. And at this point, Ray, the picks are coming through. Going to be a 2K right now, as Temina is going to double down with the squad to try to take this one away. Many sitting super low for the time being right now, as the point will flip over. But Ray, that does not mean the fight's over. But I eat my words very quickly.
Yeah, again, it was just a great job of 6ix9ine finding I believe it was a 2K with a single rail, something like that. That's what it seemed like. But they were able to find 2 with the railgun shot, and then it just opened things up. That it did force them to have to use the Kitsune Rush. So if you're Silvoc lovers who, if he goes down, you come back, you're going to have a slight ult advantage just because you'll have the Kitsune Rush advantage.
Yeah, and now the question is, what do you want to use here? Because there is no beat, I think you could get away with just going into Kitsune Rush, saving the EMP for a different fight. However, you still could. Nothing's really going to hurt you right now, as they've already lost out on Caleb, so creates an awkward scenario. So if you're going to go again and get the double when it comes to the stickies, but it's still a 3v3 situation, as Little Lucio more than happy to re-engage here, try to make sure they double down and get it for the team to copy. Doing fine for the time being, unfortunately, just a little bit surrounded. No chance of getting that annihilation out in time, and unfortunately with that, it's gonna be difficult to try to pull anything back from this point, as Fellowship Esports stabilizing for the time being.
Yeah, they're looking really good, already taking the lead in the ult charge. Fifi goes down back to the spawn room. Silvoc Lover's going to have to look to reset. Fifi's going to go over to the Genji now, which I think is just going to be better for being able to help, go against the other Genji and then be able to get on top of 6ix9ine a lot easier. Still have an EMP and the Kitsune Rush available, but already the side of Fellowship Esports has another Kitsune.
Yeah, but Rambo did not get hit with it. It's going to have to beat on time. It's going to get every single body. It's going to get traded out in exchange right now. Silvoc are throwing everything into this fight to take it away. But it's one pit that could come through, and it is, in fact, starting to do so as they're getting blown away. That's going to be a full team weight, 90% but varied. Realistically, should be able to get a touch.
Are they, though?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, they're hiding. Okay, I didn't realize. I thought they were back at the spawn room. Okay.
But
yeah,
I don't think they can touch.
No, they can't, as Fellowship Esports takes map number 1 in shocking fashion.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing too horribly shocking about this, at least from the perspective of, if there is a time where Fellowship is going to be able to do good, it's going to be the very beginning, because I love the fact that both these teams, with the progress they've made throughout the season, a lot of that has been through their adaptation. Fellowship Esports is a team that I think has been really good about that since the very beginning of this season as well. So I'm happy to see them competing, doing good, but Silvoc lovers, the more time they take to go against this comp, I think the better they're going to understand it, and the better they should be able to perform against it as well.
I'm curious to see how Iveri's going to continue to stick to the Sombra, because, I mean, I feel like it was very hit or miss. Either, it did a lot or is doing absolutely nothing. So I feel like, there's a lot more picks that'll be a lot more consistent, but let's see if they can make it work more consistently this time around.
Yeah, the Lucio going to get forced immediately into that Nemesis form right now, as Professor Catboy trying to do the same, and with their counterpart going down, it's pretty much going to cut and seal that fight right then and there. So going to be a quick first one once again for Silvoc Lover, so we'll be able to unlock the point, as Fellowship Esports just got to find a different way to go about this.
Yeah, but if you're Fellowship Esports, this is exactly how the first submap went, so you're not too bothered by this. The thing that has been looking great for you is your adaptations coming into these fights, so he's got to make a few tweaks here or there. Catboy was just able to get super aggressive, was able to find some picks pretty early.
Yep, 100%. And now Lucio has got to be watching out for the hack once more. Temina might have to focus on perhaps going for the cleanse. In that situation right now, is very more than happy to go with the counterpart in the back. But this fight pretty much going in reverse as the first one win, as Lucio takes down their own counterpart, and it's going to fall apart from there. Only going to lock in a 20-something%. Probably going to end up at that 26. As Fellowship Esports more than happy to just take back that point.
And again, we do see the Moira coming out for the side of Silvoc, who's been on this map, which, I mean, again, it's great, you know, if you can win these fights fast, but in long sustained fights, the Kiri's just going to be better as Kitsune Rush comes out.
Yeah, and Caleb's going to be more than happy to go in on this, and for the time being, seems to be working out well. And in fact, the point's going to flip over before the fight is even really fully taken care of right now, and the Nemesis, or more so the Annihilation, is brought out, and it's a risky scenario to go for. It has to come through, but D9 going to be able to be kept up because of that cleanse, and now Body's beginning to surround once more. I was scared originally for Fellowship Esports giving up the point without too much of a fight, but at the end of the day, seems to pay off a fair amount.
Yeah, you did force out Annihilation and Overclock and Kitsune Rush for exchange of just your Coalescence, and you stole a good 10-12% from them. So I think all things considered, that was a pretty good fight for Silvoc lovers. Now they can come back with 4 of their ults and look to re-engage. The thing is, this EMP, it has to hit Rambo. They missed it last time.
Yep, opportunity is here right now. It's going to go out. Rambo again does not get hit, and Buried gets blown to smithereens. Unfortunately, so a 4v5 fight. Blade being popped up by Fifi right now has got one. Is going to come back.
Whoa!
They're going to get taken out. Fifi gets the 3K, clearing things out. Fellowship Esports don't know what hit him, and Silvoc will take back the point.
And not only that, Hunter, but at the same time, they had pulled out the blade of their own as that was happening. No. So you completely nullified that ultimate as well. Gomeni, unfortunately, just pulled that out in a bad situation, and Fifi took advantage.
Yep, and you're seeing an extremely quick engagement because if you're all tracking well, you know there are 0 ults on the table. You can take a quick fight. And on top of that, you can afford to lose that fight as well, as long as it happens quickly right here. So they're going to go in aggressive, try to find something, getting the cleanse out as well. So far, so good for this fight. And with Professor Catboy being taken care of, no re-engagement. So, I mean, clean as a fight as you could have had it.
Yeah, and this is looking great for Fellowship Esports because, you know, even though you're going to have evenly matched Kitsune Rushes, Lil Lucio is much going to have the, you know, the Annihilation when Catboy's not even close. Huge advantage.
100%, and now things are going to start getting a little dangerous. So Lucio just gets taken down. It's just too far ahead, unfortunately. And now at this point, Fellowship Esports, you give up this fight. You stall that point for as long as humanly possible, and you eventually just have to simply give it up. And now you're going to have an exchange coming up here, but here it comes as they're going to eventually collect the point, Ray, as they're going to be more than happy to double down in the scenario. Unfortunately, it's just falling apart eventually, and now we're coming back down to the same question again, Ray. Who is going to win out, the EMP or the sound barrier?
They did find 3 picks in that fight, so for the side of Silvoc lovers, they can't even afford to be aggressive, and the Annihilation is already going to come through.
More than happy to do it. Both sides, as a matter of fact. Professor Catboy has already found one as Lucio struggling to do anything right now. The EMP going to come online. Rambo died 99 to that beat, and now is Lily going to have to beat probably just to get to the point, but I don't think they can even make it, unfortunately.
No, that is going to be signed, sealed, delivered. Point number 2 goes to Silvoc lovers as it'll all come down to Gardens as, again, Fellowship Esports continues to surprise and push Silvoc lovers to the edge.
That is insane. Fellowship Esports went for the gamble of double downing on that engagement. Unfortunately, just does not pay off, and now we're going to see a couple of swap arounds right now. Lucio currently looking to be on the Winston, which Ray, I agree that Winston is a good pick in the scenario of Garden on its own, but if they keep the style, I'm concerned of whether or not it's actually going to be as effective as they hope.
The big question for me is, what is Varied going to play in this situation? Is it Tracer? Is it Sombra? Okay, so the Sombra. I think that's very risky because 6'9", oh, you're so vulnerable to the hacks, and you were doing so good on the Sojourn.
Yeah, as Fifi is, I was going to say, also has done well in the Sojourn. Unfortunately, that is going to be a quick fall apart fight, and it seems to be every time so far, Ray. These first 3 fights have been definitive when it comes to every sub point.
Yeah, the question is, I'm not sure if Silvoc lovers was expecting this composition to come out from Fellowship Esports. Immediately, we already see the swaps coming in. We're going to see Professor Catboy go over to the Winston. Fifi's going to go over to the Tracer. So your backline, you got to be careful of your Fellowship Esports. But if you can get 6'9" in position, the Reaper can eat the Winston alive.
Yeah, Lucille going to get hacked, but manages to jump out just in time. stay from that effectiveness right there. Boop over onto Professor Catboy as well, but more than happy to simply jump back up right now. But unfortunately, no trade gonna come through right now. You keep Lucio alive, and if you're if you're a Fellowship Esports, you don't got to do a thing now. You have no reason to chase.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here questioning what the heck are Silvoc lovers doing. I'm like, why are you playing a poke battle at the bridge? That's exactly what this Reaper wants. Like, let me just be able to keep this mid distance and just shoot my Hellfire shotguns at you.
Yeah, 100%. But to be fair, going the White Room isn't going to be super effective either, as the boop on the death point takes them off the side, and now a free engagement perhaps for the side of Fellowship Esports right now, 50% and counting. You see them going for the back cap on the point. Unfortunately, it is not going to be effective, as both bodies looks like they can escape for the time being.
As now the ults are mounting for the side of Fellowship Esports, who continue to ride this momentum. Kitsune Rush, Sound Barrier, they're coming up on absolutely everything. This EMP's got to be huge for Varied.
It 100% has to right here. And again, that beat is ready to go. It's going to come online. Rambo again doesn't get caught with it, but unfortunately only going to beat themselves. So Little Lucio has to try to get back in time to be able to use that. Unfortunately, just not going to come to form right now, but it is still in a situation where they can pull it back. And in fact, 6ix9ine pulls it, and they will with 80% and counting. This is getting dangerous for Silvoc.
Yeah, 90% and counting. You did get 3 ults for 1, so Silvoc will have a huge advantage, but they got to make something happen, and they're going to be in a staggered fight.
Yeah, no one can be able to boop in the star. They're going to be able to heal to go through. They're going to go for that touch. Point will come with the overtime, but it's going to come out, unfortunately. No one going to go down from the EMP. Now things get a little risque from here, as Fifi is going to find at least one, hoping to find the second right now. So he's doing a really good job of it, and inevitably looks like Silvoc should be able to pull this one back. Little bit of the boop. Me not just says, nah, bud, let me go with you. Let me take the reset, 99%, but it's going to cost you a couple of your very valuable ults, as everyone except for Pizza Bagel just hits the reset button.
Yeah, but look at that. Fifi and Varied are already halfway to their next ults, and Fellowship didn't get anything out of that fight either. They used 2 ults, and the rest of their team didn't really gain any ult percentage either. So you can use a Sound Barrier to sustain for this fight, and the rest of your team can, especially your DPS, can start building to these ults. I think they're in a pretty okay spot.
Yeah, 100%. This death pressure onto Caleb immediately cleanse has been used, and the beat's going to be used not in time to keep them up, and now it's about being able to sustain. Keep your tank alive right now, who's getting dove on consistently and hacked away, as Point dangerously getting closer and closer to flipping over, as Silvoc is falling apart at the seams as it flips over. We gotta get another touch over on the point. Lucio gonna get booped away in Fellowship, hoping to try to end this first round right here, right now. And ladies and gentlemen, they have certainly done that. Fellowship Esports starting out strong against the number 3 seed, gonna take away Lijiang Tower to get some early momentum in the matchup.
Man, what a statement to come out here if you're Fellowship Esports as the 8th seed, as the underdog, to take map number 1. And that 3rd point wasn't that close. Gardens was absolutely destructive for the side of Fellowship Esports, coming out on, you know, basically the zombie comp that we used to see back in Overwatch 1, a variation of it where you used Sombra, Reaper, Winston, Lucio, Curie. We're just going to walk into you, and we're just not going to die.
Yeah, 100%. In that situation, I mean, to be fair, if you know you're doing in that situation, which it being a simple comp, 100% helps in that scenario, and it's not what you really expect to run into after both teams are pretty consistent and pretty reliant on running that Ramatra-style rush on those first 2 points. But at the end of the day, obviously, it works out well. But at the end of the day, this is where that development and that adaptation is going to come into play, because I think Silvoc seems to understand, I would imagine at this point, what the comfortability is going to be like for Fellowship. And now the question is, how do you wish to go about this, not only with the bans, but eventually with the way the map is going to go down? So, I mean, at this point, Ray, we'll figure out the bans here in a moment, but I'm curious of your perspective real quick. I mean, what do you think would be the most threatening ban against either Fellowship or against Silvoc, for that matter?
It's a good question, because it felt like, you know, in the Ramatra battle, they felt pretty even. The Winston battle, it felt like they had, you know, a more significant edge. But again, that could just be, you know, 6ix9ine was playing Reaper, and that just absolutely blows up the enemy Winston. So it's hard to say, because, like, you know, you ban Reaper, you're not going to be playing that anymore. But 6ix9ine was just as comfortable on the Sojourn. As you mentioned, you ban the Winston, they could be like, well, you know, you're still fine with Ramatra, depending on what map we're going to. And so I don't think there's a definitive like I'm gonna ban this and just get rid of everything you're doing here if you're the side of Fellowship, because they've shown some great flexibility.
Yeah, I 100% think they have in the situation right now. This may be a scenario where you just might want to protect something in the situation right here. Like if you want to keep reliably running stuff like the Sojourn, like the Sombra, like the Reaper, and have a lot of DPS flexibility, you could go and ban like a Widowmaker or a Torbjorn or something of that nature just to give you flexibility in that area. But I guess my main thought would also be the support category, because obviously Juno not available in that last round, and I think Juno does pair up pretty well with Ramatra as well, so I'm curious to see how that adapts. At the end of the day,
I mean, you've
like,
played Silvoc before. Were they really reliant on playing Juno?
not terribly, no. At least,
Yeah, so it's like, to me, I don't know if like Juno's necessarily like, I couldn't play Juno with my Ramacho WAN. No, I mean, Kiri Lucio is just fine. Like, and we saw Fellowship Esports make it work just as well. So, we're gonna have to see. You know, maybe the Juno will make a big difference, but can't wait to see. Because once again, it will be Silvoc lovers' pick, because they lost that first map.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, this is also dependent on whatever map we might go to as well. As we do know what the map is already. It'll be King's Row, which I think will affect the bans to a certain extent. Right here, the question is, how do you want to go about that? Because you could think, oh, just get rid of their mantra. You know, Fellowship are doing good at it. As you said yourself, Ray, Silvoc was pretty much doing equally as good here. So the issue is, do you want to take the gamble of banning their mantra to force in a different tank, thinking that, hey, I think we can perform better with this tank over Ramatra? Do you think that's even a possibility right now?
The only other tank I feel like who competes in the brawl battle at this point, I mean, I'm still low on Malga. We saw the Malga ban, but you talked about how it was possibly, just to protect. The only other tank I've seen really compete head to head with the Malga, with the Ramatra, is the Orisa. So I always think that's definitely a possibility, especially with, some of those perks, the extra charge on the javelin throw to really stun people. So I think there's a possibility we see that, but I think, maybe if you're Silvoc, I don't know if the Sombra is going to be the answer going forward in this series. I feel like you got to pick up a different DPS. It hasn't been getting what it's wanted. I mean, the EMP, I saw probably one EMP where I'm like, okay, you didn't get the Lucio, but you guys were able to capitalize and make it work. But, so I think the adjustment will be in the DPS line.
Yeah, I think there definitely should be an adjustment. However, if there's not an adjustment, if Silvoc decide that we still want to force the Sombra to work, I'm going to throw out there right now, just ban the Lucio. The Lucio was literally negating almost all the effort that they were having on the Sombra. So that is what I would go for if I was Silvoc, if I was dedicated to what I was currently running. Do I think they should? Not really, no. But I think the possibility 100% exists. However, we'll find out momentarily as Silvoc lovers, as you said, got that first pick for the ban to get things rolling here. I imagine this is probably something a little more targeted instead of something necessarily for protection, but hey, I'm proven wrong. I literally said this earlier, and I said, no, Hunter, that's a dumb idea. Is Torbjorn gonna be the first ban?
Yeah, and literally, it's not a ban on Torbjorn. It's a protect on whoever. I'm not sure which DPS they were trying to protect, but that was definitely a protect coming in. But the big question is, what does Fellowship look to do? They cannot ban Juno anymore. And, they did well in the Kiri matchup, so you don't know if you really want to ban that out and then get into a Juno fight and then, maybe you lose that. But they're going to ban Ana, which is interesting. We're on Kings. Unless you're playing Winston, it's not what you really expect to see support-wise. So I don't know if maybe they're just trying to protect Kiri themselves. I'm not exactly sure, but I wouldn't expect Ana to be so heavy-handed on a map like Kings Row.
Yeah, I think it is definitely a question as to why you would try to do this, and I think there's something to figure out, but I think these swaps might answer at least one of those questions. Is Wolfie going to be coming in on the tank? Is Lazuli going to swap in? Looks like they'll be playing over on DPS, more than likely, as I've seen this at the very least out of Silvoc previously before. With Fellowship Esports, not anytime recently have I seen it. But I'm curious, because if you bring in a ball, I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of like that, but the question is, that still doesn't really explain the honest situation all that well.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think this is a ball per se. It could just
It
be
could
someone
be.
who feels a little bit more comfortable playing. I don't know, man. 'Cause I mean, Ramatra's still good on this map. So you feel like if you're a Ramatra player, you could also play Orisa, but who knows what they're going to do there. But I do, I thought that immediately was they're going to change with the DPS line a little bit. I didn't expect Fifi to be coming out for Lazuli, but I do expect Varied to probably look to not play Sombra, I would hope.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't necessarily blame. There obviously has to be some kind of idea here. I mean, the Sombra in some realms could work, but again, I think because the Lucio is there, I think that in itself, regardless of anything else that has happened, is already a fair enough reason to keep Sombra out. But unfortunately, things might be repeating a little bit of history as Varied currently on the Sombra and is going to look to walk out of spawn as Rambo more than happy to stay on the Lucio as hey, Fellowship Esports right now, I don't know. I mean, Zombie Con before, now it's looking like a brawl style with a Ryan and a May. I mean, that's pretty classic right there.
This composition for Silvoc lovers is so perplexing. Like, it's almost kind of like what was being played by Fellowship on the last map, except you're playing a Hazard instead of a Ramatra. And I mean, instead of a Winston, I'm sorry, instead of a Winston on Gardens, which I mean, Hazard is the divey kind of mid-level tank as well. It just feels so strange, but I'm curious how this Reinhardt's going to fare against this composition.
Yeah, I think it's genuinely going to struggle unless somebody from Silvoc really messes up and gets themselves caught out like that. Essentially, things won't be going well. But it seems like they will, as Hack gonna try to come online as Wolfie gonna be forced out for the time being. Still has a little bit of care, but unfortunately, Temmie not being taken out means they pretty much have to gamble to get rid of Professor Catboy, and the gamble pays off. So unfortunately for Silvoc lovers, this comp just does not work out at all.
Yeah, they got a lot of initial burst damage immediately onto Wolfie on the Reinhardt, but after that, like, everyone just got blown up and they couldn't capitalize on the low Reinhardt. We did see Caleb the Goat now going to go over to the Baptiste, which is, going to have the immortality heal, but Lazuli, you just can't let that happen. That's just more free space. Essentially, Fellowship Esports is now going to get this archway for free, and that's devastating because that archway is such a good defensive holding position. You're gonna have to look, wait, and probably take your next fight at the bookstore corners. We do see Pizza Bagel on the point in the back line, just finding picks somehow.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do something here as Pizza Bagel's super low as Varied looks to be getting some form of value here. Nice hack over onto Wolfie. Probably not going to be long for this roll. Just finally, a fight comes through, and now the bright side for Silvoc lovers, they get control back on the archway. The support duo going to be able to get out as 6ix9ine going to be very happy to jump immediately over to the Reaper.
Yeah, and this is more of what we kind of expected in this matchup against the Reinhardt, where it's like everyone's kind of spread out and mobile and not, Reinhardt can't really swing on a bunch of people here as we see pressure trying to be put onto Lazuli as the EMP comes out, finds 3.
And finally, Rambo gets hit with it. Not that the beat was there available in the first place, but 3 bodies still alive for the time being. Temmie not, rough scenario, but looks like we'll be able to survive for the time being, and we'll have double super ultimates around the corner as they are pursuing pretty hard as eventually they back out.
And to win that with just the EMP is a big deal for the side of Silvoc lovers. They're going to have the downpour they can throw in this next fight, and then possibly a window if they want to combo the two.
Yep, window is active right now. Pin comes through. Catboy, a bit of a rough position right now. B can be thrown in just to double down here. Honestly, I'm fine with that. But Lazuli gets a 2K. Is even if things back up, but still needs to find a bit more than this. As Lazuli be forced to back up a little bit, but very more than happy to stay in the fight. As I mean, it is a lower fight for them, but unfortunately, it's a 2v2. The spawns are way closer for Fellowship Esports, and eventually, that's going to pay in dividends.
Yes, everyone's eventually going to die on the point. Basically, for the side of Fellowship, they're going to have to win one more fight to get this point across. They're going to have both their DPS and tank ults. The good thing is Pizza Bagel's going to have the sound barrier to deal with these DPS ultimates. So really, I think it'll come down to the downpour versus the shatter. Who gets more value out of it?
Yeah, honestly, this is not a comp where you're probably gonna get a fatty shatty by any means whatsoever. But if you can find one person to get, like Pizza Bagel, who literally is the one person that can stop this thing from happening, unfortunately, it literally does not work out in the slightest. Downpour gonna be used, and it's going to solidify that fight right then and there. So 3 minutes gonna be left on the clock. Here's a full wipe here for Silvoc lovers. Unfortunately, it's gonna be important that they get at that EMP in time.
Yeah, because that shatter got Pizza Bagel, it forced him to have to use the sound barrier specifically for that. So you do not have that available for these incoming Death Blossom and Blades. So getting this EMP online is going to be that important. But for them to win the fight with the downpour to go along with it, they needed exactly that, as we see very distracting them. Both DPS in the backline absolutely distracting them. But now they're just speeding and ignoring them. I don't know if that was a great idea.
Yeah, and now probably gonna be an EMP in the backland's gonna catch on a 4. Rambo again doesn't have a ready to go, but Blade still has been popped. Unfortunately, is getting popped in the diddly squat. As this fight's still very much anybody's game, but unfortunately the separation has been causing craziness. But 6ix9ine's got rid of 2, unfortunately. Don't know if it's going to be enough quite yet. Advantage still very much in the hands of Fellowship Esports, as Tepminot needs to make the decision here very shortly whether or not to be able to go in and support with this assault. Unfortunately, is not going to happen, as a 2v1 scenario will not favor Wolfie more than likely, as unfortunately I think Pizza Bagel should be able to stall out and actually just might win the 1v1 entirely.
They definitely won't, but the reinforcements are there, and they found another one. Oh my goodness, this is getting rough. They have to use the window.
They have to right now, and it does be great for plenty of sustain right there. Unfortunately, as much of a fight as it has been for Fellowship Esports, seems to be falling apart, but they're going to triple down in the situation. This is a massive gamble that has to be off. Lazuli gets the Rambo, the one person who had it all ready to go, and things are falling apart at the seams as Fellowship Esports gamble, and the gamble does not pay off.
They still have their sound barrier though, so it's sound barrier going up against downpour. I mean, I don't know how that interaction works. You know, can you sound? I don't think you can sound barrier while you're trapped by the downpour. So, if Catboy is on it, I think this could be a bad spot. But they're gonna preemptively beat.
Which is always a risky situation, but Caleb does go down as a result, and now Professor Catboy, downpour ready, it's going to catch onto, I think, maybe one onto Lucio, and they'll be trading up and around right now. Is very more than alive right now, going to get the hack out, going to try to stop Wolfie right in their tracks right now. So much going at them, don't know what's hitting them right now, need to get rid of Lasley to give themselves a chance in this fight, and with less than 1 meter, will eventually cap 2 minutes on the clock, and a shatter still to Fellowship's name.
Big time clutch coming in from the side of Fellowship Esports. The sound barrier ended up working out perfectly for them. And again, you did waste a lot of time if you design the Silvoc lovers, considering how quickly they got that first point. So you're going to take that every day to Sunday, and you'll be able to re-engage this next fight with a EMP, and you got a sound barrier to deal with these DPS ults.
Ooh, and that's going to be a fat one as well. I mean, no chance to really do anything in that situation, unfortunately, as right now everyone's gonna be able to take a nice little reset as Silvoc just goes right back up, and we'll just take the death head on. But I mean, Fellowship Esports about to have 4 ultimates on the board. You just have to be careful not to burn too many here.
I will say, for the time being, making the Sombra work very well. I do think it's fortunate that they're going against a Reinhardt composition where you hack a Rein and he's pretty much useless.
Yeah, Pizza Bagel is one and will go down. No beat to be popped here today. But now things are going to get a little bit difficult as that cart is moving slowly but surely. Caleb needs to be taken down if they want to have some kind of big advantage here. It's eventually just going to be forced out in general, as Immortality Field will it be no more, which means Gomeni is just going to have the ability to go in and just cut things down. Beat going to come online to block out the shatter, but here they come through trying to find something over on, and they are falling apart. One, as Lasley tries to make the hero play, it does not work out, and despite a lot of the difficulties of second point, Fellowship Esports finished the point, and importantly, will finish it with 38 seconds on the clock.
Set of Silvoc lovers for that final fight. They were playing way too spread out, and not everyone got a hold of that beat, and Fellowship Esports was able to take advantage and get the point delivered. It feels like we've seen a lot of brilliance coming out from Silvoc lovers, and then at the same time, a lot of just head scratchers. I'm like, what are they doing there? So they need to continue to string together these moments of brilliance, and they got to start limiting these head scratchers.
Yeah, like, at the end of the day, I don't hate what they were going for. I don't hate it. And in fact, I think you play into a level of chaos between the Hazard, the Sombra, where it's really hard to hunt something down on a Reinhardt-based composition. It's intentionally meant to not be easy. But at the end of the day, it still has to have a level of cohesion. It still has a little bit of honesty from one of the teams here. At the end of the day, it still has to work in its own right. And right now, it is to a degree. But unfortunately, as we'll get something taken care of, a little bit of adjustments need to be made at the end of the day. And as we see the adjustments from Silvoc as well, I believe pulling out, what was it, the Juno Brig, I believe I saw there for a moment.
Yeah, we'll see. They're on attack, so we don't necessarily know exactly what they're locking into. But again, I just can't continue to not talk about how well Fellowship Esports is playing. To come in as the 8th seed, I mean, where, expectations are extremely low. You did dodge the 1 and the 2 seed who felt like they had better ideas here. So you did. If you're the 8th seed, you're like, wow, we don't have to play the 1 or the 2 seed. We get to play the 3. And then the same thing with Silvoc Lovers at 3. Wow, we got the 8th seed. So they probably were both feeling a little bit better about who they got. But Fellowship Esports has came out and shown up. And they have looked impressive. You talked about how this team had only been getting better and better as we got further along in the season. And it's all culminating right now.
Yeah, 100%. Again, I believe very heavily in this team. I'm not just saying that because I want them to win. I'm happy to face whoever loses this match, 100%. But in a very serious sense here, this is a team that has the ability to punch up, because despite they are the 8th seed and they have struggled against those top 4, they have beaten the 5th seed, they have beaten the 6th seed, the 7th seed. They have the ability to get these wins, because outside of that top 2, this is an incredibly close division where I think anybody between that 3rd and 8th seed realistically has that chance of getting to top 4, top 3 even, and maybe even getting that upset against either low ground main or SOS. So I'm curious to see what that result is going to end up being, but obviously that's something we'll figure out on a different day. But for Fellowship Esports, this is what I really wanted to see out of them here today. It's a lot of improvement over the course of these last 3 months, and I'm excited to see if they can keep it up, because Ray, we have seen teams before that jump out to this early lead. They get a course of momentum, and in one fell swoop, it can come crashing down. And I've just seen it so many times. And for the sake of Fellowship Esports, I would like them to not have to go through that.
Yeah, I mean, they also were able to. They were able to finish all 3 points with time on the clock. So regardless of how well the attack goes for the side of Silvoc Lovers, they're going to get another attempt at this. So regardless, I think as long as you make this map close, even if you end up losing it, I don't think it's going to be one of those, wind is taken out of the sails. I mean, on the other hand, Silvoc could come out here, go, crazy and, cap with 4 minutes. Then maybe you're looking at a little bit of momentum stolen.
Yep. As things going to remain relatively the same for Fellowship Esports, Stein can be more than happy to stay, or I more so go back over towards the Sojourn, as Juno Brig is going to be the pair brought out here, which, to be honest, I don't really hate. It's going to be really hard to walk into the orbit array. Caleb is going to be able to boop away whenever the DPS try to go in, so I don't hate it at all. As it's going to be a risky engagement here for Wolfie and the rest of the Fellowship squad, but for the time being, seems to be working out as separation being brought into play right now, as Lazuli going to be suffering a little bit, but Wolfie getting low, but at the end of the day, paying off very beautifully. So as Silvoc is just a little separated now.
As we see Professor Catboy trying to find the pick, and they are not able to. So they're going to get picked themselves. Back to the spawn room they go. And again, Fellowship Esports are just holding ground. It felt like very similar to how the first attack went for Fellowship on their attack, where Wolfie took an extreme amount of damage, but they were able to stabilize, and Silvoc wasn't able to capitalize on how low Wolfie got on the Reinhardt, and they were able to win the fight because of it.
Yeah, 100%. And you see Very just trying to create chaos in the back. Unfortunately, it's not doing as much as it previously was, I believe, as Very going to fall apart. The rest of the squad going to be in a rough scenario. And now, with Wolfie going down, though, if Silvoc Lovers, everyone hanging around here, can just survive, they should be able to re-engage in a 5v4. Oh, no.
Oh no, that pretty much quells that because Reinhardt's got that charge. They'll be able to get back relatively quickly. So all things considered, now you got 6-9, but you're continuing to staggers. Either, okay, this is looking better. You got a support out of the way.
Yeah, and Very is still hanging around, has the ability to go for a hack here momentarily. It might just be right onto Wolfie, but Beat has been engaged. But Wolfie did not get hit with the Beat, very importantly, getting super low, and eventually Virus is going to play its effect right now, as unfortunately, Fellowship Esports is going to fall apart at the seams, but do manage to burn away half the clock as a re-engagement is nigh impossible at this point.
Yeah, you mentioned, I think, that just the mistake there was Rambo did not get Wolfie in that sound barrier. That may have been a different fight if that happens. And Silvoc's able to win the point without using any ultimates. I think that's the key victory point for them. You know, it did take them longer, but they didn't have to use ults.
True. Extremely true, for that matter. Now, I think it's as simple as either an EMP or you just go on with the orbital ray. Maybe you did both for funsies, but it looks like it's going to be an EMP at this rate as they're kind of hanging around, and nobody's ready for this. This might just be a slaughter as they go in, going to try to find something right now. They just go in with the shatter right here, as unfortunately, Professor Cupboy, I think, is going to lose out on the downpour, unfortunately. So for Fellowship Esports, they managed to survive, at least momentarily, and for Silvoc, I can't imagine that went anywhere near to the plan that they had. Is with Very going down means that realistically, Caleb moving and trying to get rid of Wolfie is just plain not going to work out. And I mean, Ray, answer the question here for me. I am perplexed why they did not just go for the MP there.
Yeah, that made no sense. They went for the hack and tried to find the kill. They were hoping to be able to clean up without using the EMP, but I mean, you can win the fight with just that alone. You didn't even have to use your downpour or blade, as we see a swap off the Brig for Caleb to going over to the Zenyatta now.
I mean, I'll talk more about that in a moment here, but for the time being, we're seeing actually not much of overkill as Gomeni's just trying to find something on the blade. Does manage to find one. Unfortunately, that's not going to be nearly enough to pull this fight back. Let's be 100% real at this point. It's just going to stall at the point for a little bit longer, as EMP still going to be active and alive, as the Zen, I mean, not going to be the greatest in the world, but the thing is, you're going to have way more kill potential. You just roll out on Wolfie, and you just burn them and their shield away.
Yeah, Gomeni, however, is going to have a lot easier job of going after this squishy backline of a Juno and a Zen. They're not going to be able to protect each other, so that's going to be tough sledding. But with the cart getting ready to round the final corner and an EMP in the back pocket for Varied, they could get this cart delivered with relative good amount of time on the clock.
Yeah, and all 5 bodies caught. The shatter went out, but it did not find its value, as everyone going to be wiped away. And with that wipe coming through, and lastly finishing with a 3K, again, retouch not going to happen, so Silvoc lovers gonna unlock the second point pretty soon. Gonna have a downpour coming up to a Transcendence. Things looking in their favor, as Fellowship gonna make a small adjustment over to the Reaper.
Yeah, gonna add a lot more frontline damage in this fight, and, you know, just plays well with the Reinhardt, be able to play the front lines with them. And they'll get a sound barrier from Rambo for this next fight, so they'll have sustain to deal with Lazuli's blade.
100% Marines in this scenario right here, as I'm curious to see how much they want to be willing to invest here right now. As downpour is ready, but Professor Cowboy gonna hold on, gonna go for the trade right now. And if in that 1v1 trade right there, you'd love it right now if you're Silvoc. Unfortunately, you lose out on Pizza Bagel as well, and unfortunately, you're just not gonna get a whole lot more from here. As Lazuli contemplating the blade.
And again, that's the one thing I'm concerned about with this backline for Silvoc, because it's so squishy. Gomani was just able to go in there and kill both of them and get out, like didn't even get punished.
Ooh. Yeah, and Lazuli was super close to going down after getting hit with that Fire Strike. Got to, I believe, about 10 HP right now. Is here comes that blade with the Gatsune Rush. Beacon to be used. Keep everybody alive, as Lazuli just be focusing on staying alive after that whole engagement. And this has been a 3-ult investment now for Silvoc lovers. If they lose this fight, it'd be absolutely devastating for their cause. And so far, it seems to be trending in that direction, though, as Not eventually being taken care of. A rough spot for 6ix9ine is eventually going to be teamed up on. So while this might eventually be a fight win for Silvoc, perhaps they have invested too much.
Yeah, I agree. It was extremely expensive, and they didn't get much distance gained. Okay, getting Wolfie there is huge, actually.
Wolfie just pushed it up too far, just didn't have the full team there yet, so now you're walking into the 2 most deadly ults in this combination, and unfortunately, I don't think you have the utility to stop either of them right now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a blade and a shatter and a beat. I mean, not a beat. A Death Blossom. You have to hope that you get aggressive and find picks early, because we saw Varied was very, in certain situations wasn't ready to pull the trigger on the EMP. They have to be ready this time.
Yep, EMP is ready. Shadow, though, is going to come out online at the very least right now. Blade's going to come online, going to get at least one, but need to find a second if you want even a glimpse of a chance at taking this one away, as he's going to go for it. Unfortunately, and threw everything in the kitchen sink. Unfortunately, it was not enough. End of the day, it's going to be more time on the clock, 24 seconds more for that matter. So Fellowship Esports will be forced to attack first here, and realistically, 1, maybe 2 fights at best at their disposal.
But if you go on how these attacks went for both teams, Hunter, Fellowship got the point instantly, and it took half the time bank for Silvoc Lovers to get their first point. So if you just go based on how those went, you got to favor Fellowship Esports, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in that situation, I would not be surprised. However, Silvoc know realistically what they should be walking into, barring Fellowship completely changing the script, but they've had such progress on it where you don't really need to. It's not necessary. As 6ix9ine is currently contemplating the Cass City, but again, it's on attack. Nothing's locked in quite yet. But the one thing I'm curious about is Caleb staying over on the Zenyatta. And Ray, you've already balanced the pros and cons of having the Zenyatta here, especially on that attack they had them on. But on the defense, you think it's going to find more value, or perhaps maybe less value and be a bit of a unfortunate?
I think it has huge boom potential, but also huge bust potential. Like, you could be on this high ground and be a lot very unimpeded and get Discord orbs out and throw down a lot of damage, but you could also just get wiped out instantly, and then it's over. The point's going to be theirs. So if they can make it work, it's going to be a huge boom, as mentioned.
Just be happy to see how it goes either way, hanging back very far for that matter. So they're going to take a very aggressive stance here out the gate, forcing Pizza Bagel out immediately, who's sitting super low. Going to go for the pin here as Wolfie. Unfortunately, that pin not going to find any inherent value, as the trades are still coming through. One after another going to be hacked that will eventually kill Rambo, as again, it's back and forth throughout the entire time. Unfortunately, Gomeni just needs to live. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. You need to live in this scenario right here. Unfortunately, might not be super likely, but they're going to get the care just in time, and now they'll have the advantage for this next fight for now.
Look like Suzu was used there, though, so they're going to have to be a little bit more patient. As now they're going to look to get aggressive and get pushed, because some of the players are not back yet. This is smart.
Yeah, 100%. You might be able to secure at least a tick in the situation right here, but you got to try to keep bodies on. You have to create that pressure and force them to touch right now. And Wolfie, unfortunately, going to gamble and not get it. As a matter of fact, they have not gotten the tick quite yet. And unless somebody steps off and something happens, it's going to all fall apart at the seams. So not even a tick for Fellowship Esports, not even the blade needed. And now, unfortunately, they got to play for the tie, and that is a best case for Fellowship Esports.
Okay. I have had a recent curse where I brought up the idea of a draw cast a few weeks ago, and it happened. But you brought it up first. So let's hope the curse is not there, because the draw is still on the table. As mentioned, it took Silvoc Lovers half the time bank, which is 2 minutes, and they're only going to have 1:24. The thing is, though, they only need a single tick, so that definitely helps. But the big question is, knowing this, do Fellowship Esports come out with something spicy? And yeah, we're going to see them come out with the Ramatra this time around. A very similar composition to what they were playing on Lijiang Tower on the Brawl maps.
Yep, 100%, and I like the swap up. I think it is a better selection of a Reinhardt at this point. I think the Ramatra swap, honestly, probably should have come through like halfway through their original defense. But they're making it now in what be the most important time to make that swap. But for Silvoc Lovers, 2 fights on the board at the very minimum for them here. So you got that potential to work back up towards that blade, especially if you manage to get the Orbital Ray or even the Transcendence. It's going to become a very, very tough fight for Fellowship Esports to win. So, I mean, honestly, it feels like a toss-up here, quite frankly.
Time begins. No swaps for Silvoc Lovers. Are going to continue to play the Zenyatta, and I think the Discord Orb's been doing them good to be able to find quick kills, especially onto Wolfie. Wolfie was like the first pick in so many fights on that second attack.
Yeah, Wolfie has to continue to play carefully here, because it's going to be really tough to, as going to see the force out right over there onto Gomeni. Gotta survive for the time being, as Silvoc are just taking their time on this fight, surrounding, and it's going to pay off for the time being. Doesn't mean the fight's over quite yet, though, as Lazuli gonna get a little too close to the sun right now. It's a 4v4, as Wolfie is going to have to engage with that Nemesis form. Looks like it's paying off for now, but Wolfie needs Carrier, needs to stay alive, or else this could be over right here and now, literally on a slight shred of health, and they will fall over.
Yeah, now both their supports are stuck on the high ground here. If they come around and go after them, this could be very bad. Silvoc's going to have one more crack at this with 20 seconds left on the clock.
And they're throwing bodies on right now. The Ramatra is not going to get here in time. The assassination attempt is going to ring true of bodies. Need to start moving towards the point. We're going to see right now. Going to have to use that Nemesis form pretty much immediately as they're going to get on the point just in time. Unfortunately, it's going to be nothing but an inevitability as, while they do get a couple of picks, unfortunately not able to re-engage. So Silvoc managed to take this one after a very hard-fought map here to be able to bring this over to a tie. And ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a match.
Yeah, Silvoc lovers finally able to snap and clap back, able to get map number 2, but it was close once again. So continuing to sing the praises of Fellowship Esports to be coming in as the 8th seed and pushing the 3rd seed to the edge like this. Even in a win, Silvoc's like swiping sweat off their forehead. And now Fellowship Esports is finally going to pick a map in this series.
Yeah, and at that point, I'm curious to see what they want to go to, because I think they know what they have the advantage in within this matchup. The question is what they want to go to, because despite the fact that they won that first map, the gap hasn't necessarily been like a super wide one. I don't think it's been wide in any margin for either side in any situation right now. Every fight is really coming down to it, so I'm really curious to see how it's going to go. I'm so curious because, I mean, I would love to just keep going and run it through, but we got to give these players a minute to think about what they want to do, since we do have that halftime break here in front of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we will have the 3rd map getting set up for you. This could go all the way. This could be a map 5 banger. Is it going to happen? You're going to have to find out after this break.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming hard.
Everybody, welcome back from our break here after having a bit of a big-time competition here today. When you think of the first round of the playoffs, doesn't sound like the most enticing thing in the world. A lot of them sometimes end up being 3-0s, unfortunately. Sometimes isn't quite what you would hope for. But today, ladies and gentlemen, completely a different story. It's currently a 1-1 battle between the 3rd seed Silvoc Lovers and the 8th and final seed Fellowship Esports. And I mean, Ray, we talked about it a lot before this match even got started of the progress both of these teams have had. And I think what we have seen in these last two matches is indicative of just how far and how close both these teams are.
Yeah, it's been a slugfest of a match. Every map has come down to the edge. I mean, on Lijiang Tower, the first 2 points were 99-99, essentially before the 3rd point. Fellowship ran away with it, and Kings Row could not have been closer. So now, as this will be the first time, we talked about it before the break, Fellowship Esports will be picking the map in the series, and they have decided to take us to New Junk City.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best map created in Overwatch 2. The opinion of only one man, and that man's name is Hunter Tane, by the way. But going to a map like this, whatever.
It's okay to be wrong.
You can silence me, but you can't silence the truth. But speaking of the truth here, you go over to a map like this, Brawl is going to be the name of the game, ladies and gentlemen. That means that Ramatra likely going to make another appearance, and Fellowship, I would imagine they would want to get rid of the Ramatra here. Now the question becomes, Ray, if you're going to stick with what you've been running, what do you want to try to axe away in a map that is going to be so Brawl dependent?
You kind of talked about for the tanks, at least. We saw them find great success for Silvoc Esports on the Hazard. So do they look to want to ban something out like that? Or are they going to look to ban more of a favorite kind of pick on a map like New Junk City? And then, they've only banned supports at the same time, too. And they're going to ban the Zarya, which that is interesting because in my reasons, I've casted a lot of collegiate recently, and I've been seeing Zarya get more and more popular, specifically on New Junk City.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't hate it either. I think Zarya is kind of an underrated tank. I don't think people understand just how much power, how much war the Zarya can have in a meta like this. And this is a much smaller note, but you talked earlier about Orisa being a good substitute for Ramatra, and Zarya is a prime counter for Orisa, so maybe if you make the swap, maybe you're getting rid of a prime counter, but for Silvoc Lovers, they aren't going to wait at all. They're doing exactly what I thought they should have done last game. They get rid of the Lucio, which means if they keep the Sombra in, there is not going to be a backup plan for Fellowship Yield to be able to stop these EMPs.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Hunter, but no, you're right. Silvoc was banning first last two maps. So yeah, I'm a little surprised they hadn't done this sooner, but I guess if you're going to this is probably the most quintessential, like, I need speed kind of map. So to get rid of the Lucio in this situation, probably the smartest to save this ban for this time. So now if you are Fellowship Esports, what do you look, obviously you have Juno in the speed ring who can substitute that a little bit, but how do they look to play instead this go around?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see which way it's going to go right here. In terms of this map right here, Ray, I will say this map, I think it's going to be the most important one of the series. Not just so far, but I think in its entirety, because I talked about it a little bit during our break, doing some deliberation. I did a little bit of stat looking. I did some research to me right now. And little fact for you, as Silvoc Lovers never have been to a map 5 in the entirety of their season so far. But on the contrary, Fellowship Esports have gone to 4 map 5s this season, and they've won 3 of them here. So I think, statistically speaking, if Silvoc win this one, they give themselves a grand advantage in terms of statistics. But, I'm just saying, if we go to that map 5, there is one team that clearly has the experience and the success of getting there, and that is Fellowship Esports. So a big win here. Just looking at the stats, Ray, it could mean a lot.
Yeah, great pull of that information as we see Silvoc lovers opening up on a Junker Queen composition. No surprise,
Right.
home map. It's a great map for Junker Queen specifically. For Fellowship Esports, as it sits, they're highlighting a Wrecking Ball, which we have seen that, as favorite heroes, stuff like that. But okay, they're gonna go back to a similar to the zombie comp, so they're gonna play what they were playing, except they're substituting the Lucio for the Juno with the speed ring.
I don't know how this could end very badly.
I don't like it against the
very
Junker Queen.
quickly. Yeah, I think it could end very well for them, but it's also very risky because if Lucio gets hacked and pulled in, they're just cooked. It is going to be as simple as that. So you have to be very careful how you want to play this. And you see, as nobody really is willing to go inside the room a whole while. Like, Lucio's kind of peeking in, but no one should go in. Is very just going to very quickly win the 1v1. Things are going to fall apart likely very quickly from here. Right now, his cleanse has to be expended away as the point more than unlocked. At this point right now, as Not unfortunately going to get burnt away in time right now, but it'd be going to lose their counterpart on top of that. But Gomeni more than happy to keep this one going, has a 3K to the name, and looks like eventually it's going to pay off his Fellowship. Where, I mean, after losing out someone so early, felt dead to rights, but excellent pullback to start the map.
Yeah, they couldn't get Lucio down on the Winston either. I feel like when you're playing a Junker Queen composition, those carnages and those slashes and the amount of damage you can throw down on the Winston, you feel like they'd be under pressure. But it felt like Lucio was just chilling and able to, take their positioning and look for their dives. Kitsune Rush coming online for Not, who's, far ahead in the ult charge when it comes to that.
Yeah, you see Professor Catboy, they use that shout. Unfortunately, I mean, health just got burned away so quickly, so now he's becoming risky right now. Eventually gonna go in, gonna slash Ash away, and they're gonna go for it, but Gomeni gets a 2K, and things are gonna be completed very quickly. Couple ults being thrown around in Fellowship Esports, unfortunately, well, I don't even want to say unfortunately, that was just well played, but that could have gone very wrong if they used things like half a second later.
Yeah, it's looking very good, very good. Gomeni absolutely dominating on this Reaper. They have the ability to touch one more time if you are Silvoc lovers, but I mean, you don't even have much online. I mean, you're coming close to this EMP. They're not gonna even. Oh, okay, they get the touch just in time.
Yeah, and of course, gonna go through. Trying to find something here, only gonna catch over onto Rambo, but I want to see whether that's me enough. The solo EMP over onto Leslie. It does catch on Varied as well. That is pure disrespect, and at the end of the day, it's not going to secure anything quite yet. It's still a 3v3 right now. Fellowship so just slowly taking away. Gomeni on absolute fire to get the map started. A 4K on this one. Gomeni is a killing machine right now.
Gomeni is absolutely having a field day, and this is making me reevaluate everything if you're Silvoc lovers. Like, do you ban Reaper from now on in the series? Like, every time they've played it, they've been dominating. 3 ults, however, for Silvoc. They should have a nice advantage to try and get this junkyard point.
Yeah, and Varied is waiting at the point with the EMP, by the way, and instead is going to go behind and use it right now. Not pretty much gets instantly destructed right now, but that doesn't mean the fight's over, as Lucio more than happy to re-engage, and apparently Pizza Bagel is in the same camp. Professor Catboy is just going to be tossed around like spaghetti, ladies and gentlemen. Ending the fight right there. An unfortunate loss of ultimates for Silvoc lovers, as the double investment does not pay off in the slightest.
Yeah, very, very bad fight for the side of Silvoc lovers, and it puts them behind the 8 ball in the ult economy going forward. You have to hope you take full advantage of just this incoming Kitsune Rush, but Gomeni is just going to be ready. I don't even know if they're expecting another Death Blossom. He just used it.
Yeah, right now, and with this coming through, gonna go in for it. Very risky. Cleanse gonna be used right now. Gomeni, unfortunately, gonna get deleted. The Reina Tower, Remain of Terror, gonna temporarily come to an end, and it looks like Fellowship Esports will eventually be burnt away. But, I mean, bright side at the end of the day, you only use one ultimate. You're gonna be pretty tied up with ultimates going into the next fight. And at the end of the day, you know what? You went for something, you essentially traded 1 for 1. You can't be too mad.
That's the kind of fight you needed, though, if you were Silvoc lovers, to get your trade for Kitsune Rush for Death Blossom and win the fight pretty handedly. So now Lazuli can look to set up for a Death Blossom of their own. In worst case, you use the Death Blossom to force the Suzu, and then you get a big rampage.
Yep, 100%. Another quick engagement online right here. Gonna see the Wraith form used very quickly for it. Lazuli right now as 6ix9ine tries to go in had the MP ready, but he just doesn't really get anything. I think I got killed, and now Lazuli is just running down the house. Said, "Go many, whatever you could do, I could do a better." A 3K as Professor Bad Boy gonna steal the last one away, and now momentum swinging it back just like that. Silvoc lovers.
And Hunter, they win that fight with using 0 ults, 0 commit, just winning in the mid-ground, mid-game. And so that is chef's kiss for Silvoc lovers. Now they have 3 ults to use. 6ix9ine is now swapped over to the Tracer. Fellowship trying to find an answer.
Lazuli, if Lazuli can use y'all here, it'd be the perfect thing, because if you can go into the next fight for the next point with an EMP, as well as your Joker Queen, I mean, you are just set up for absolute success. But unfortunately, you lose Pizza Bagel early, and now you're just, well, I was gonna say you're not going to Vest, but now you're in a 3v3 right now. Gonna send through, is gonna catch on to bodies, and Leslie has a 4K. Professor Catboy will eventually take the last one once again, but Silvoc pulling that one back, having to invest the ults to do it, but my God, was it worth it?
I mean, but you kind of, it still falls under the situation you were hoping for, where you're like, man, if they could just come into this next point and still have EMP, they're going to be in a great spot, and they're going to have exactly that. And they could also throw in their orbital ray if they need to combat some of these ultimates coming online for Fellowship Esports. So I think Silvoc, all things considered, even though they had to use 2 ults there, put themselves in a great spot. But because of the people coming back late, Fellowship's going to have the far better positioning for this fight.
Yeah, and Lucio made a grave error for a moment there, just decided to dive in to try to find the kill, and now everybody's in prime EMP territory. It's the 4K, but gonna get deleted is Varied, and Lucio more than happy to hang around and go for the Primal Rage, and is going to pay off very well. The EMP was perfect. Quite frankly, it was a perfect EMP. Just Silvoc was not ready to go in to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I was going to say it was great, but that tells me they had no communication because nobody was ready to go in on that. And then you just, now, you know, you win the exchange. EMP for Primal? Oh my, if you told me I could trade those ultimates in any game of Overwatch, ugh, I'll take that every day. That is beautiful.
Yeah, and now Silvoc lovers gotta find an answer here. I imagine it's just gonna be, I was gonna say the orbital ray, but no, double Kusine rush right here. Gomeni can be more than happy to just hang around the corner. I like this play on the corner. Make it difficult, because the moment they walk in, they're simply gonna get slapped with a Death Blossom now. And with 70% and counting, they have to be very smart on how they approach this. Unfortunately, it's gonna have to be them trading orbital rays, but Varied has gone down, so the trade at the end of the day is just gonna be a quick deletion as Silvoc is starting to suffer and fall apart at the seams. And now we are looking at a 2-1. Map point can be going over to Fellowship Esports, and all the momentum squarely back in their hands.
Yeah, that was a disastrous fight once again for Silvoc lovers. I mean, once your Kiriko was down, or your Sombra, can't remember which one it was, but why would you commit the orbital range of that fight? You already lost, so you would have been way better suited to keeping that going for the next fight. Is now looks like we're going to Bomb Flats next, and already on the prowl our Fellowship Esports. They found one.
Yeah, I mean, when you have momentum this squarely in your hands, you just keep taking the fights. You meet them in the middle like that right there. It's kind of something you have to do in the situation. The more time you give Silvoc the setup, my God, the worse it is going to be for you. So first point, realistically, should be their capture. Silvoc, I think, should take the time here for a moment and set up a next fight, but no, they're gonna let the point go through, and now, I mean, no time in between fights, right? They're going to get right into this. This Rambo, unfortunately, has gone down. EMP is ready, but it's highly unnecessary to have to use here. But Gomeni goes in, gets one, eventually going to trade back and forth. The EMP still very much into play right now. It's in a 2v2 situation right now. But Lazuli, again, going to manage to pull it out. And Lucio, honestly, I think they should pull it. And they're going to pull it 100% right now. Going to get a hack onto them right now. They're trying to hold on. His body's gonna be getting back here pretty soon, and honestly, Lucio doing an amazing job holding this down, and in fact will survive, and Ray, they get the backup.
Yeah, they get the shield down just in time. Oh, I don't know if I like, oh, they get the Suzu. Wow, this is great team play from Fellowship Esports.
I cannot believe Lucio managed to live throughout the entirety of that fight. EMP brought through, Varied, managed to get 4 again, but gets deleted instantaneously again. And now it's falling apart, ladies and gentlemen. 75% and counting. Silvoc lovers reduced to ashes, to smithereens. A retouch becoming out of the question here as Fellowship Esports took the momentum just like they had it on Lijiang. And a retouch here, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it is an impossibility as Fellowship Esports clearly confident and ready to try to end this thing.
Put themselves on match point. as Fellowship continues to shock and awe everybody watching out there and us as casters.
Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, you may have seen the 8th seed dropping to the 3rd as a bit of a blessing for the 3rd seed, but maybe just SOS and low ground main saw something that we didn't quite see. But at the end of the day, I mean, Ray, honestly, I feel catharsis a lot. I talked about Fellowship Esports being a much better team than when they started, and my God, have they shown that here. Because while it has largely been a back and forth situation, we have seen situations like here on New Junk City, like back on Lijiang Tower, when they figure things out and they lock in, they just start running away with these fights. And that is not an easy thing to do against a team like Silvoc Lovers. It is not in the slightest.
I don't mean to, try and jinx anything here for Fellowship, but man, they're
boys.
looking good. They're on match point to upset the 3 seed. They only got to win one more map. For Silvoc Lovers, they get to pick the next map. I mean, they have been trading maps back and forth so far, so it's, Fellowship, Silvoc, Fellowship, so we'll see. But as you mentioned, Fellowship is very used to being in these situations. If it goes 5, they've been there, they've done that. 75% win percent when they go to map number 5. Silvoc has not been here, done that. They don't find themselves in these situations where they're down very often unless they were facing the 1 or the 2 seed. But everyone else below them, they beat pretty handedly. So new territory for one when the other is used to this. So I feel like all data we're receiving and talking about says this is looking good for Fellowship Esports.
I mean, yeah, that's genuinely the path that we're at right now, because at the end of the day, it's a scenario where it's tough right now for Silvoc in this situation right here. Because again, we can talk about how they're not used to being the map 4, map 5 very often, because I brought up the map 5 statistic. I didn't bring up the map 4 statistic at all. Silvoc Lovers has only been to a map 4 once. Every other game they have had has been a 3-map series. Either they have been 3-0'd or they have 3-0'd. So even being at 4 maps is not something they're entirely used to in an environment like here in CGL. So is that going to come into a factor? I don't think it really should, quite honestly. But now you're in a situation where in this territory, you have to make the right calls, because the map pick here, it is so crucially important. If you mess it up, that right there could essentially decide your series.
And the big question going forward for Silvoc Lovers is, you're the 3 seed. You are expected to win this. Are you mentally boomed for finding yourself in the situation where you have to win the next 2 maps, or you're going to be sent to the lower bracket super early on, way earlier than you were expecting? So that's got to be one thing in the back of their mind. They got to focus up and get ready, because they lose a map, they're in the losers bracket. So we'll have to see what map they are looking to go for, as we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, honestly, it's understandable. I think, again, this is probably the most important, at least in terms of bans, this is the most important one. I think that's unquestionable at this stage of the game. So I'm curious to see how it's going to go down and what the bans are going to be. But Ray, we at the very least know the map. We know we're going to be going to Shambali, which the question is, how is that going to affect the bans here? Because this is a map where I think Brawl is still mainly king. I think Poke is still very strong in here as well, especially looking over at that first point. So, I mean, Ramatra should probably still be king here, but is this where you target the Reaper? Is Reaper strong enough on this point to try to pull it out here instead of a push map instead?
I personally don't think Reaper is super strong on this map, but Fellowship Esports seems to make the Reaper work, so who knows? But I can't wait to see this map, because I feel like this map tends to be either Ramatra or Sigma. Like, those are the 2 main competitions we see on this map. So I can't wait to see how this is going to go against each other and culminate as Fellowship Esports looking to make this a nice, clean 3-1 victory.
Yeah, and the possibility very much exists in this situation, and I'm just so, my mind is so dedicated to what these picks are going to be, because I genuinely believe this is an important pick. And the problem is, even me sitting here with all the information at my fingertips, I don't know what the correct answer is, because the safe pick might just be Reaper, to get rid of that factor that has been sealing away so many fights back in New Junk City and throughout the entire series, quite frankly. But question is, Are you more worried about something else? Are you worried about maybe trying to have flexibility on the tank or support line instead? Because if you get rid of the Reaper, that's great, but then you open up the wheelhouse to take out a support as they're going for the throat, their Ramatra. That is a double-edged sword right there, Ray.
Yeah, because it felt like, all things considered, they were, drawing pretty even in the Ramatra, but on a map like this, it's so dominant, I feel like they don't want to have to deal with possibly Ramatra Reaper. I'm not exactly sure, but to me, that spells the possibility of Orisa, because, Orisa is a good, as we talked about, is a good substitute. So Orisa and possibly Sigma.
Yeah, I mean, those definitely exist right there. Sombra will be deletion for Fellowship, so they're just gonna... I mean, to be fair, I think in terms of what both teams have performed, these have been two of the best picks for their individual teams thus far, so... Happening here, again, I think both of these are the correct options. Realistically, there's more than one correct option, I should say, but I think...
I say that, but I mean, yes, I think Varied has been very great on the Sombra, but it feels like their communication has been off on those EMPs, and it feels like, 80% of them, they haven't been ready to follow up on them, but the 20% that they do, it's been devastating, and they always win, and it's great, but it's been too far between for me. So we're gonna have to see how Varied will adjust on this map, not being able to play Sombra.
I would say the realistic adjustment is either to go and match the Reaper as well, or maybe go over to the Sojourn instead. That's what I would likely pivot towards in a scenario like this. I probably lean more towards Sojourn. I think Sojourn can have incredible value on a map like this. As for Silvoc lovers getting rid of that Ramatra, you said to yourself, Orisa, a high possibility, Sigma, a high possibility. This opens the door for Silvoc to also, if they wanted to pull back out the Hazard, they could. I don't think it'd be the best choice by any means whatsoever, but if found a level of success, the one map they won is the one where they primarily played Hazard, so could you necessarily blame them if they went for it twice?
No, I don't think you necessarily could, so it is always going to be on the table. As we mentioned, Shambali Monastery is map number 4 to decide if Fellowship Esports pulls off the upset and sends them to lower bracket and sends themselves to the next round, or will Silvoc force a map number 5?
I am genuinely excited to see what goes down here, ladies and gentlemen, because either this is going to be, at least in terms of seeding, one of the biggest upsets to start off the playoffs immediately, or it's going to be a map 5 banger. I'd be happy either way, quite honestly. As someone who's very, very personal and familiar to the NA Masters division this season, this division is a circus, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, where it feels like anything can happen on any given day. It happens. It just happens. But as we see, comps rolling out here, Silvoc running something extremely interesting, I'd say. If there was a definition of poke, I would say this would be pretty close to the textbook definition. In a very weird way, almost like in a personalized way.
Which I'm all down. I love the Sigma defense composition. Varied going over the Ashe. I think that's going to be deadly. And they got Caleb back on the Zenyatta. So this is going to be a ton of damage. Fellowship Esports, however, highlighting Zarya with the Reaper, which, possibility as they will go to the Winston. So again, this looks very much like the zombie comp that they were wanting to run.
Yep, 100%. And honestly, it's worked before. Why not do it again? Because honestly, in this scenario, there's a lot of squishies on this team right now. There's not really Professor Capaway can do a lot in terms of protection unless they really nail that accretion, which inevitably does help do so. As unfortunately, this dive is going to work out very badly to get things started right here. Though Pete's Bagel does get taken out, so that's like progress. And unfortunately, they've burnt away 2. And the fact that you don't have speed means Fellowship Esports can re-engage quicker.
Again, that's kind of the name of the game of how you want to play it, is when you get picks early like that, especially with this composition, it's making sure you can go fast and make it and just force Silvoc lovers out of good position, because that's the Sigma thrives on being able to be in nice high ground positions.
100% right now is now. Corner gonna be dominated by Silvoc lowers. This is what you want if you're a Pokemon. You want to be able to dominate a corner like this, to be able to hold on to it and play comfortably back right now as Lucio looking to get separation, gets hit with the cleanse to keep them alive. Maybe if only temporarily right now, going to jump up in the air as the turret going to try to take care of business. And while it eventually does, unfortunately, the numbers game is already outweighing Silvoc right here, but a re-engagement, I would say, still exists. But, hey, either way, gonna see it happen right now.
Aren't. Okay, yeah, with Varied going down. Sorry, I think my mic cut out there for a second. Varied going down, they're not going to touch. I think that's a smart thing to do is, you know, don't feed more ult charge. We already see Lil Lucio just making a huge impact and already buying so much space. Look at that. They forced the Torb ability, the overload.
Yes. Oh, what an accretion. Once again, Professor Catboy are doing really good over on this. I'm going to double down, as a matter of fact. Going to get at least one with this, more than likely, and it's going to be cleaning out the house, it appears, ladies and gentlemen. Lil Lucio might be the one person to send the message back to the troops, says, hey, that's momentum. You stop it right there. You stop Fellowship's momentum, and hopefully you can take it from here.
And that's kind of the momentum shift Silvoc needed, as Fellowship hadn't, you know, they were just continuing to ride that wave over their wave. But they still have 4 ultimates coming online, and they got this nice sleep on the 6-9. But I think this is going to be a big fight for Silvoc to outlast a lot of these ults.
Yeah, it's going to be really dangerous overall here. Going to try to see if you can separate Pizza Bagels, but Pizza is getting plenty of care from their squad right now, as 6 not going to be more than happy to go in and try to bust a move, essentially. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out well, but their team's still fighting back. But unfortunately, the numbers game is eventually going to pay in dividends. And the unfortunate part of all of that, though, you invest a whopping, I believe, 3 or 4 ultimates in that fight, and you barely get any progress for it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was looking for the side of Silvoc, to be able to, you know, even ult exchange and still come out on top. The problem is you're facing a Blade with nothing to deal with this at all. You gotta hope you get like a good sleep, or like maybe a good anti-nade and, you know, force go many back and, you know, not allow them to get aggressive and find picks.
100% right now. But hey, 3 minutes still on the board. Very hobo for Silvoc still, but with a Blade online, it could be deadly. Could see a single, yeah, I'm about to say, I might just see the Flux being used solo on to go many, and 100% it's going to work. And Professor Catboy, I mean, at the end of the day, running into the buzzsaw that has been 6-9, but unfortunately going to fall apart. And I mean, at the end of the day, I was calling the double-edged sword of the Ramatra band there, but Professor Catboy just over-exceeding right now in this Sigma. Wow.
Now the big question is, we see a composition complete shift coming in for the side of Fellowship Esports. They're going to go back to the tried and true Reinhardt that they were playing on Kingstar, which I think is smart because they can close distance on the Sigma very quickly. But they got to find the picks when the Torb, the Ashe, the Ana, the Brig, they're trying to play back. So they need to close distance quickly.
Yep, Nana was right around the corner as well. Nice little turret hanging on the side over there. Will eventually be taken out as well. But Casino Rush is ready. I imagine you want to go in very aggressive. And aggressiveness is the name of the game. Going to get double stunned out if you are Lil Lucio, but you have your squad behind you right now. But you need to be able to go and touch the point. But they are not going to make it there. But unfortunately, they were being kept off anyway. It would have went the way of Fellowship Esports, I think, regardless of that scenario. So 3 minutes on the board. You only use the Casino Rush, and you get the Nano out. I mean, gotta be really happy with that result.
Yeah, and breaking through with a nice 3 minutes on the clock. It's good for this third point because it can be kind of tough, especially since second point can just be so much time wasting from a defensive perspective with the just advantage you get naturally with that high ground. So giving themselves 3 minutes is going to be a big deal, and they still have a Death Blossom and a Sound Barrier to work with here.
Yeah, you saw the pin right there. Lucio went for it, but got accretion right out of it. Unfortunately, Professor Catboy, all the support might not mean anything in the world in the face of adversity. That is Fellowship Esports that is going all out to stop this thing, snuffing out the defense of Silvoc as they just have to throw ults in here, go to the point, gonna get booped off and not gonna be able to re-engage in time. 2:15 on the clock, and Fellowship Esports hoping to put the final nail in the coffin.
And again, this comes down once again to Fellowship Esports' ability to adapt and change compositions to disrupt everything Silvoc is trying to do. Once they got some footing on that Sigma composition, they were able to keep their space up against the Winston composition. Fellowship said, all right, we're just going to run into you with the Reinhardt, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. And they did exactly that, and it worked out perfectly. And now Fellowship Esports has that win condition, sending themselves to the next round. They just have to stop Silvoc from capping all 3 points.
And it's going to be a difficult act right here. Right now, you have, you have everything to lose right now if you're either team right now. But Fellowship Esports, they have a very convincing amount of time bank winning for them. If it does get pushed through all the way right now, I think you could afford to still go all out here, keep playing the way you have been playing. Clearly, it's still working, so you should just keep going at it until you realize that you've hit a buzzsaw. But Silvoc, this is the point that some teams enter right here, right? Where they enter a situation where they have tried everything they have wanted to, and it's just not quite working. So right now, very being over on the Pharah with what's here. Honestly, I don't hate it. I really don't.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Here we go as we see this spawn room. Kevin, they're getting the value. My goodness. 2 picks. Fellowship Esports. They are here to win, and they are looking impressive. But that's a big pick. That's 2 big picks. So they're going to have to get out, look to re-engage. But, I mean, hey, you got some ult charge. You wasted some time. I think all in all, you take it.
100% is Rambo, though, going to get sniped out, essentially. Where he's going to be able to help take care of business. But either way, hey, can't be too mad at the end of the day. You have plenty of time to re-engage. Can realistically get 2 more fights here. So, honestly, take your time, re-engage, pick your targets correctly. I think it's as simple as that.
And I do think this adaptation to playing the Thera is going to be very smart. No hit scan available for the side of Fellowship Esports at all. So Very's just going to have complete free reign of these skies. And then Lazuli should be free with the pressure the Thera puts on. As I say that, they just go in and get Lazuli immediately.
Yeah, just going to pretty much just get deleted on the spot, unfortunately. So for Silvoc, not a whole lot they can do, but Lucio, unfortunately, flies a little too close to the sun here, as that's going to be a bit of a risky one trying to get out of here. But if they can all stay alive, they can set up for another re-engagement with a Consider Rush in hand.
Barrage could be very dangerous for the side of Fellowship Esports. So they got to be ready and keep an eye on where Varied is, but they get 1.
Yeah, but Gomeni is there once again to clean. Oh, Paus already got 2, and unfortunately it's going to fall apart further. It's 3, and eventually, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Copwood says, nah, if anyone's sending me back to the spawn room, it's going to be myself. As 2 minutes gone, 2 minutes left, but got 2 ults still on the board here as Fellowship Esports, just feeling as confident as ever.
Still plenty of ults and opportunity for the side of Silvoc lovers, but time is ticking. And you got, yes, you just need to complete all 3 points, but you got to, keep up with the time bank that Fellowship was able to. There you go. That's what you're looking for.
100% what you're looking for right here. It's a great thing right now is 6ix9ine not gonna find all the value as a little stare down right there. As eventually Fellowship should just kind of take the reset. Obviously can't really retouch as Rambo is gonna get picked extremely late, which means they're gonna be well behind the rest of their team.
Transcendence will be online for the side of Caleb Goat, so you're gonna have that sustain available. I think you probably just use this quickly in response to maybe a death blossom that you see coming.
100% right now. Beacon to be engaged right now, but Caleb more than happy to go right back with the Transcendence as ults are going to be traded back and forth here. Gomeni though does have an opportunity to use theirs, but might not be needed as they've already gotten rid of 1. Trade outs coming through one after another as little Lucio gonna have to go hide away, and as Gomeni might be in a bit of a desperate situation, gonna have to be taken out, looking for the direct, haven't found it quite yet, and Gomeni and Rambo will be able to escape, but little Lucio cannot say the same.
Yeah, it does seem every time Silvoc is able to get a nice fight going, it's because Lucio kind of gets a little over-aggressive and puts themselves in not the greatest position. They're able to capitalize, but 6ix9ine, who's on the Soldier 76, able to find Varied. They have decided, Varied, you're Pharaoh, we get it. It's a problem. Here's a hit scan for you.
Yeah, 100%. So now gonna see how this is gonna go down from here, ladies and gentlemen, as I'm genuinely curious to see how this is going to go down here, as Taminot does have that Kitsune Rush ready to go right now, as Time Bank's currently matching. As Varied has another barrage around the corner, has the mobility with it as well. No one seems to know quite yet, but it seems they may have caught on just a little bit, and unfortunately gonna get flushed out. As a nice little boot to get everybody separated away, and unfortunately another fight loss here for Silvoc lovers. Gonna end in an unfortunate fashion here, but the bright side is, silver lining, you didn't use any ults during that lost fight, so, you know, you got something working for you.
Agreed, but again, with how naturally defensive these positions are, you can waste so much time, and time is just continuing to tick, 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 tick. You got plenty of ults to work with. This has to be the moment, Hunter, because you're going to expel a lot of ults. I can already see it. If they don't capitalize here, I think it might be all but over.
Yeah, it's starting to enter that potential territory, but still a ton of ults on the table. Silvoc is going to have so much to use as they're going to go for Gomeni, has managed to get rid of 2, deleting the support line. And now we could see a big chase to get rid of more right now. Going to see Varied and Lazuli going to be able to get out in time right now, but Varied is getting chased, but eventually you think better of it if you're Gomeni. You get out, take the reset. There's no reason to do anything risky right now.
Oh, I agree. So, I mean, best case scenario, so you didn't blow any ults, you got an ult out. So all you have to deal with is tactical visor and maybe a sound barrier, but you move fast enough here, sound barrier will not be online. So I think they got to go quick, less than a minute on the clock. And they got to make sure they don't expel too many ults either, because they are going to need to have some momentum for this 3rd point as well. They're going to need some ults.
Yeah, 100% going to be Poland, and 6ix9ine just literally gets solo ulted essentially. Let's be real at the end of the day. That was a little targeted, and little Lucio is just going to be a nice little cherry on top, as 2 minutes on the clock is all Silvoc lovers is going to get to push this thing for the next 87 meters. It is do or die. 2 minutes. It needs to be done.
I don't think that Transcendence was needed, and now you're not going to have that for the next fight. So all you have is a nano to work with. I don't like this. Sound barrier.
Oh, yeah, that's unnecessary. That is so unnecessary for them to use right there. They trade out, but at the end of the day, you just kind of have to try to, I was going to say die on the point, but it looks like everybody is able to get out for the time being. So, but they need to keep backing. They are not concerned. They need to back farther. They need to run.
Yeah, they can't continue to stagger. They're only making things better for Silvoc, who are at such a disadvantage. And they kind of just like said, here's the advantage right back in your hand. So smart. They're able to reposition, get themselves back on this high ground here, and set themselves up for this next fight. Kitsune Rush 2 available.
Yeah, and I would not use this thing quite yet. I think it's a bit of a disadvantage right now. And hey, you don't need to use it. And to be honest, if you don't really go beyond the show point right here, there's zero reason in the world to. But I think you have to be very mindful of Varied. Varied is the one reason why you can't play up too aggressively, honestly.
Yeah, and Lucio's going to have this Shatter available. So to me, because you're playing against a Torba, Thera, and a Zen and Ana who are kind of playing far back, I would wait for that shield to get out, and I'd look to solo Shatter Catboy and just get that Sigma off the field right at the get-go.
Yeah, because with that, we're gonna see how it's gonna work out. They're waiting, gonna go for it. The shield, it misses by maybe a 1/10 of a second, but unfortunately, it's not going to pay off right now. It's entering desperation territory. Kitsune Rush has been used. They're engaging in this fight. Gomeni, though, has helped get rid of them, and it is becoming desperate very quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, Nano is thrown on at Pizza Bagel. Wants to try to win this with Lazuli right here, right now, but it's falling apart at the seams as Lazuli is the sole hope for this squad sitting by.
And they get the Torb ult on point, but it's not going to matter. Little Lucio is back from spawn. I think that's all she wrote. Fellowship Esports pulls off the upset, sends the number 3 seed Silvoc lovers to the lower bracket, and moves on to the winner's semis.
Just goes to show anything can happen in the CGL playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. What I would say, the biggest upset in the NA Masters Division this entire season. My God, not many people would have saw that one coming. A lot of people losing those channel points, going into channel debt for that matter. As my goodness gracious, the 3-1 victory I mean, I can't imagine what that VC right now is for Fellowship Esports. You get a big win. You get to move on to the 3 seed, to the number 2 seed with all the momentum in the world. Unfortunately for Silvoc lovers, never would have expected them to drop down this early on, and now it's going to be a very, very tough climb to try to make it back to those grand finals. I mean, that's going to be what I think, like 4 matches they're going to have to win in a row now. That is not easy by any means.
Yeah, so congratulations to Fellowship Esports moving on in the winner's side of the bracket. Who had that on their bingo board today? Because I know I didn't. I'm so excited. I love these underdog, come from behind stories. And Fellowship Esports, they're just a group of friends. They've been working together so hard, and they have really improved. And tonight was just the culmination of all of that, and they showed it by upsetting the number 3 seed.
Yeah, 100%. And I can't wait to hear all about this. I hope this is going to be a really hype interview because, of course, ladies and gentlemen, of course we have an interview. Why would we not have an interview for one of the biggest upsets, I'll say it, of this season? Low-key, it is that kind of game based on the seeding, everything we have seen before. So we're going to get that set up, ladies and gentlemen. So when we get back on an interview from one of the members of Fellowship Esports, we're going to break down this big upset. And to me, I mean, one of the best games I've gotten to cast this whole season. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Lots of love. Love. Lots of love. Love. Lots of love. Love. Got lots of love. Love.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this night right here. We've had ourselves a fantastic match here tonight, and maybe going to this interview, you might have expected, based upon the seeding, based upon previous results, that Silvoc lovers may be standing here, but no. Ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be Lil Lucio joining us as well. My brain. Gomeni. I remember names. I'm good at names, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us. My goodness, what a win here today. I mean, I'll say right at the end. First and foremost, I mean, congratulations on an amazing win.
Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, at least me personally, a lot of people a part of the squad have gotten to see the transformation of this team from what we have seen from the beginning of the season to now. And we went over it briefly before we got into things here. But I mean, like, just what was the transformation like over the course of the last 3 months?
When you want to start?
I wasn't there still to start, so.
Okay, I'll speak. So yeah, we started off the season kind of rough. Well, not super rough. We just started off, like I said, when we were picking who we were gonna verse. We started off like 3 silver players and 2 masters, and then me. And throughout the season, we started out really low. We obviously knew going into the season we were probably going to be one of the not the best teams, but scrim-wise, we started off like scrimming like Diamond, and then worked our way up to like GM. So now we're scrimming GM teams, and with each week we just kind of get a little bit better, and we just try to push ourselves a little bit more. And I guess you saw the results today.
Yeah, awesome. So coming into this match specifically against Silvoc lovers, were you guys expecting to win? And if so, you guys kind of dominated a lot of these maps where it felt like, wow, this 8th seed, team who we kind of, with the 8th seed, you don't normally expect huge upsets like this. Were you guys expecting this?
Yeah, I'd say so. I keep on talking first. Come on, you want to talk?
Like the immense amount of like improvement that I've seen a lot throughout my teammates has been kind of crazy. Like every practice, it's like it feels like an entire rank up almost. It feels really good. I really expected to win this, and I felt really good.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to Silvoc lovers. So this morning, actually, Gomeni was having Wi-Fi problems, and he wasn't able to stay in Overwatch for longer than 5 minutes. And also, Wolfie was on spring break, so he wasn't supposed to come to the match either. So we were about to pull out our emergency sub, our guy Speakeasy, our favorite 47-year-old Curie One Trick for the match. So it was a pretty stressful day. So I was actually expecting this to be a forfeit match, but God willing, we turned it around and we were stomped.
Pulled through.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge up. So with this newfound confidence and this new skill, I mean, we saw so much versatility and so much like, when, what hit the fan, you guys just knew how to quickly come up with a nice answer. I go back to, you guys swapping back to the Reinhardt to go against the Sigma. So as you guys progress through this bracket, where do you guys see yourselves? Do you feel like you could look to maybe upset, maybe the 1 or the 2 seed who are going to be waiting for you guys in the winter semis?
We just have fun. We're just gonna have fun with every single match and just hope for the best. That's just kind of how we've always approached matches. Is just we're happy to be here. I guess.
Hey, makes complete sense at the end of the day. And I mean, I would love to have another question, but genuinely, the thing I want to get to, because I feel like there's something y'all want to say. If there's anything that comes to mind for y'all, any way you feel, anything you want to describe, just anybody you want to shout out in general, like if y'all, I mean, I'm describing this in a really awkward way, I totally understand, but if there's anything you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, please, you are more than free to do so as much as you'd like.
Yeah, once again, I just want to shout out Silvoc lovers, like I mentioned, the tech issues we were reversing this morning. I reached out to them and kind of told them our situation, and they actually agreed to, since we were gonna have to use our emergency sub, which was a One Trick. They agreed to not ban Kiriko if you played. So really appreciate the sportsmanship from them. Obviously, we didn't have to go that direction, so we didn't have to do it. But their offer was very nice. It made me feel really happy.
Gomeni, anything from you personally?
I love all my teammates. I love all of them so much. Especially Wolfie. I don't know the improvement without Wolfie. Like I don't know. I love Wolfie so much. He's my goat. All my teammates laugh. I'm being serious.
Oh, hey, no, I get it. I've been here before. It's an amazing thing to be able to witness. But of course, I'm sure y'all want to be able to celebrate this win. It's a massive win. It's a massive accomplishment. So, again, congratulations on a big win here today. Best of luck with the rest of the playoffs because I mean, yeah, I don't at this point I don't know if it's an underdog story anymore. I think there's a genuine contender in front of us, and again, we wish all the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh, wow, Ray. This is, you know what? I'm gonna say it right here. I'm kind of happy they won. This is not the team I wanted to run into. The Fellowship Esports we met here today is not the Fellowship Esports that I would want to run into in this bracket. My God.
Stone Cold Killers, man. Like I thought, they'd be, like crazy hyped. I'm like, did y'all expect to win that? Yeah, we did. I'm like, okay, like, let's go. I love to see that kind of energy. Can't wait to see what they do from here. So shout out to Fellowship Esports. I mean, we will be, I think we're doing the winter semis for this bracket. I can take a look to see exactly what we're doing in the Masters. Oh, yeah, we're doing the losers round 1 and the winter semis. So we will see them again for sure on stream, and I'm looking forward.
Yeah, I 100% am as well. Again, the complete carnival ride that seems to be the NA Masters division. Ladies and gentlemen, if it was not indicative enough already of how wild this entire season has been, not just in general, but also specifically for this division too. I mean, this was the entire proof in the pudding right here. 3-1 victory, 8th seed getting the upset win. And honestly, looking like an actual fixture that can go through and give the number 2 and number 1 seed a genuine run for their money. But Ray, the bright side is that's something we get to see for a different day because unfortunately, the human body is not meant to cast 50 games of Overwatch in a row. It is not humanly possible at this time with our current technology. But bright side, Ray, is there are matches going on. I mean, pretty much almost every single day at this point. We are covering as much as we physically can, which includes tomorrow as well. We'll have some matches running because while there is the chaos of OWC that's happening throughout the night, with the day, you can sit around and watch some classic CGL. And I mean, Ray, is there anything better you could do? Is there anything better?
There definitely is not. I can tell you guys for sure. I need to check the schedule again tonight to see if any more games got scheduled. And if so, we'll look to schedule them. But as it sits, we have 2 games slated tomorrow. They'll both be NA games and they'll be happening at the exact same time, 10 Eastern. So CGL 1 and CGL 2 will be live for Celestial Knights versus Showbill Nation and the NA Masters tier. So you're going to see how that goes. And then in the NA Diamond tier, we got Solar Eclipse going against Phantoms.
Ooh, the Solar Eclipse Phantom one was a lot of fun during the pick as well. I'm very excited for that matchup right there. There's a little bit of heatedness in that division. I'm not gonna lie, little bit of heatedness. So excited for the chaos that will come for that matchup. But yeah, obviously a lot of action still to come, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the next few weeks as we are gonna count ourselves some champions, though not quite yet. I wish we could do it tonight. But either way, we really want to thank y'all for joining us here today. It has obviously been a very exciting time. It's a very exciting time to be an Overwatch fan right now. You pretty much get some 24/7 action coming up for these next couple of days here. But at the end of the day, obviously want to thank the amazing crew that was behind us the entire time. We had Echo producing and Mara observing. Very thankful to have them, of course, to help run the show here and get things, just keep things running smooth. But either way, once again, thank you all for joining us here tonight. Make sure to join CGL tomorrow night where we have some double NA action where eventually we're going to crown some champions. But for the time being, we hope you'll have a good night and we'll catch y'all tomorrow.